scored. It's Grant who's got the goal from the free kick, and we're heading for extra time now, surely.
Flamingo! It is 2-0, and that now surely seals the K-League title for John Buckland Motors.
You're listening to the KLU United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, Archie Mikhail. Welcome to the K-League United podcast with me, Paul Neat, and back to make the original trio, it's Mr. Ryan Walters, all the way from Bangkok. How are you doing?
How are we doing? I'm not tired. You're tired.
Never tired. I never sleep. How can you be tired when you never sleep? And then Matthew Binns from just down the road in Seoul. How are you doing?
I am also not tired after. Well, I'm still recovering from jet lag, Paul, but I'm doing very well, thank you.
Excellent. Well, today we're going to talk about the K-League 2 party because, as a wise man from somewhere once said, there ain't no party like a K2 party. How's that working out for you, Ryan?
I think that person may have thought they could eventually leave the party because parties are great, but you don't want to do it forever.
I've said this before, but the K-League 2 party is like a super hands party. It starts off fun, but then it just heads into a place where it gets a little bit nasty. You know what I mean? And I think as we are now heading into the last sort of round robin, it's heading into full horrible. You know what I mean? Especially after what happened to Dejan last weekend. That was just unnecessary. Why would that happen? You know,
it must be
2-0
really
down,
rough.
2-2, then lose 3-2 in the 94th minute. Full horrible.
Yeah, playoff positions must be really terrible.
Yeah,
I feel my heart goes out to you.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, like, if you started the year in a continental competition after winning the FA Cup, and then you were basically in relegation mode in the second division?
Well,
wow.
I think John are the true artists of the K-League 2 because they just draw all the time.
It's true. It's true. We haven't been thinking about it the right way. We're just always practicing our drawing.
Yeah. It's staggering. In fact, I think, hang on, let me have a look. Draws.
It's 4 straight.
Yeah, and it's 15 in total, and that is the most in K-League 2. 4 wins. How have you only won 4 games? Anyway, we'll get to that a bit later.
Yeah.
But today, we are going to look at the key races in K-League 2. The title race, is it a one-horse race? Maybe so at the moment, unfortunately. Then the race for second. Now, that is important because the team that finishes second will go straight through to a playoff with the team that finishes 11th in K-League 1. No games between the K-League 2 teams like it has been in the past. Then the race for third. Now, that is important because it is basically the same rules as what it was last year for the team that finishes second. So third will go through to some kind of semi-final, you could call it. And then they will play the winner of 4th and 5th. So finishing third is important. So we'll look at the race for that. And then, of course, the final playoff spot. Now, 5th gets you into the playoffs in K-League 2. And it's quite a tight race with that as well. And then right at the bottom of the table, it is not really a race, but the fight to avoid the wooden spoon. Now, that is, I would say, after the last couple of games, it's getting tighter and tighter down there. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, some news. Now, there was some news that broke over the weekend by Sports G to say that Songnam City government, which owns Songnam FC, of course, is looking to sell the club. So, because Songnam were looking like they are going to be in K-League 2 next year, sorry, Songnam fans, it does look that way. That's why we're talking about this now. So, the reports, they are quoting somebody whose name hasn't been given to them. The government are looking for either a company to buy them out in the Songnam area, which would allow them to stay in the area, or it could mean that they move to another city by selling it to another city government somewhere else. So that's not good. What are your thoughts on this? I'll start with Matthew.
Well, I mean, the first thing as well it should be mentioned, if Songnam do somehow avoid relegation, they will get relegated automatically if they move location. Moving location in this league does result in automatic relegation, as we've seen with Sangju moving to Gimchon. So not just for the fans who would obviously want to keep it in its place, but also to avoid that, to make this season not seem any more pointless than it has been for them at times. They really want to be keeping it in the same area. I'm sure, given Songnam's history, there must be some conglomerates that would be interested in investing. It's not exactly a recently set up club it's still got a loyal fan base. It's still got Tanchon's a reasonable stadium. I'm not a fan of the away end, but the rest of the stadium is not too bad. I think there's a lot of things to consider. If you wanted to buy a K-League club, there would be a reasonable prospect.
Absolutely. Ryan, could you imagine how the Songnam fans would feel if they have to think about moving? I mean, hopefully for them, if this is the case, worst case scenario, and is somewhere close, like Yongin, maybe not close, but not that far away. But could you imagine if it was somewhere else? It's just, how would you then support the club? Do you find a new team, or do you just watch from afar? It's just a nightmare, isn't it?
I mean, Suwon Blue Wings would be the closest team, and I don't think that one's going to happen there. No. I think in this instance, in a lot of ways, I think this could be a really good opportunity for a company looking to invest in K2. We've seen a lot of city governments coming in and wanting a K2 team. We haven't seen a ton of companies be ambitious in that regard. And as Matt rightly just pointed out, and that's a really good point, that if the club moves, they're going to be in K2 anyway. And as you said, I think, look, this is one of the very few things I got right preseason, so I don't mind bringing it up again. I think we all kind of saw Songnam going down this season. And so I also think that if you're going to try to build a team up, it would be a great opportunity to get a team that's going to be in K-League 2, a team that could do what Gwangju's doing this year, go ahead and yo-yo and bounce your way back up, and a team with a ton of history. Until Jeonbuk did what they're doing, Songnam was the most successful team in Korea. And that history is all still there, be it under a different name. And so I think if you're looking at an opportunity to buy into Korean football, you can get all that history. Like you said, you can get a fan base that's there. Tanchon isn't one of these 60,000 person stadiums that's too big. Yeah, the away end has issues, but that's most K-League stadiums. So I think it is a good opportunity there. But like you say, if it has to move, I think Yongin makes a ton of sense. The stadium's too big. Surprise, surprise. But it is a gorgeous stadium that's not used for anything really often, so I think that would make a lot of sense. But you don't want to see Songnam go away. I mean, this is a team that's just got too much history, and so I hope that a company will come in and get them here, because like you say, if they move, then what do those fans do? Or it's just not a good look for the league. I know this happens in my home country quite often, where teams move, or it used to happen more often, I should say, but you don't want that. So hopefully somebody can swoop in here. I mean, Matt's on the pod. Why don't you talk to your city friends? Songnam City's got a good ring to it. It's very close to Seoul. The resources are there.
Yeah.
Come on, City Football Group.
Here's your chance. Yeah, should have had a word with them while I was back. I was too busy scouting some of their players for the K-League too. That Haaland seems all right. But yeah.
Can you do a job, though?
He could at Songnam, I think. But
can you do it on a rainy day away at Bucheon? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, dark times for Songnam. I wouldn't want them to move. I wouldn't want them. I think they've got to find some kind of investment, really.
Well, they lost to FC Seoul 2-0 at the weekend. That left them 8 points adrift of 11th, 9 of 10th, and then 12 away from 9th, which would be absolute safety. Afterwards, Kim Nam-il said that there's nothing the players can do about all this talk about moving or a takeover. They have to just concentrate on the rest of the season. There was banners as well there at Sangam on Sunday. Songnam City, take back your decision to sell. Another one said that they are against moving the team. So obviously the fans have had their say. The manager's hands are tied, he says. So we'll have to see what happens in that regard. But let's move on to the key races in K-League 2. I'll tell you what, for a league with fewer teams in the top tier, there are a lot of races. But in this first one, I think it might be fair to say that it is definitely a one-horse race at the moment. The title race, Guangzhou FC, they sit top, quite comfortably top as well. 11 points clear of Anyang, who, it has to be said, do have a game in hand. But this segment might be quite short. It is basically Guangzhou's title to lose, isn't it, Matthew?
It would be a collapse of Ulsan proportions to lose it from here. This is Guangzhou. They should be already looking ahead to the K-League 1 at this point, and it's good for them as well that they've done it so early, because it means that they can start making moves in the transfer market now. Start making plans for next season, because they don't want to come straight back down again.
No, and it actually seems to me, it sounded like when I spoke to Alan Carver earlier in the season, that they've already the club have already started looking, even as early as this season, because he talked about how it's more about just getting up and then staying up. It was always about that. The reason why he's played in the Champions League, he's won the A-League title a few times. A player like him not wanting to spend too much time in K-League 2, there's just no reason for him to do that. And I think they kept hold of Hayes, top player, the sort of signings that they made. They've already, I think, sort of tried to make sure that they are staying in K-League 2 very, very short time. The manager, Lee Jong-hyul, was a surprise. I'm not sure I saw this coming, and I didn't think they would be a poor team this year. Certainly not, but this good, not really sure. But in terms of, I think, why they'll get the job done, Ryan, what do you think that is the main reason or reasons why Guangzhou are just so strong?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I don't think a lot of us really saw this coming this year. To me, a lot of it does have to do with mentality, because this is a club that has gone down and up between K1 and K2, maybe even more than anybody. That was something that I would have to look into to double check, but I do think Guangzhou's made that move more than anybody else. And, also when you're scoring 50 goals in 31 games, you're going to do all right. You're going to do okay there. And I think this is a team that's figured out the formula of how to score and score often in this league. And yeah, it is pretty surprising, considering Oman Sang was here last year. He was the prize possession that left in the offseason. And you thought that maybe there would be too big of a drop off there, and they wouldn't really be able to figure out how to attack without him there. But this is where I think Ji-sung has done really great and is a bigger part of that attack than... Well, no, I mean, I think this is just the transition. And I think this is another thing that Guangzhou has done really well, is figure out how to transition in young players while also doing really well with their foreign signings. Reese is somebody that's been there for a long time. Well, it feels like a long time at this point, but they've managed to keep him. And I think, like you were saying with Culver, when you can convince players that the project is something that's worth their time and they're not going to be in K2 for very long, you can keep players of that caliber. And surprise, surprise, Reese and Ji-sung are the two leading the way in scoring. And yeah, Reese is 29, so they got him at the right time. And again, Ji-sung is somebody that's very, very young, and they just continue to develop talent well there and integrate that talent in well. Also, Ho Yul is somebody else that's there, that's young, that's doing really well. So Guangzhou have a good formula. And I think that they've figured out a way to kind of plug and play a little bit better than other teams, where they can miss a piece like Oman Sang, who I think, through ACL and other things, people saw the talent that was there and why so many K1 teams were in for him. To lose him and then to go ahead and just run away with K2 like this, to me, speaks about the structure within the team and how they're able to plug and play regardless of which players that is or that are in there.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in agreement then that Guangzhou are going to do it. There's no reason why they won't. So let's move on to the race for second. And as I said earlier, this is important because it means that you go straight to a playoff with the team that finishes 11th in K-League 1. It means you get to avoid the gauntlet that is the K-League 2 playoffs. At the moment, in the driving seat, you have Anyang. Now, that is because they beat Daejeon 3-2 on Sunday. That put them 5 points clear. They have played a game more, but they are 5 points clear of Daejeon and Bucheon, who sit level on points with Daejeon in fourth. They are doing what they've been doing for the last few years and just being very consistent. We've seen this a lot over the past 3 or 4 years. Is this Anyang's year, Matthew?
Yeah, well, as you said, we've seen it so many times. It's hard to give them the seal of approval because you know that they're probably going to fall away or something at the end. I still think they're going to. I think they're going to do it and get to the playoffs. I don't know whether they'll win the playoff, but I think that second is very much theirs. I think I say that because just the way Buchon's tailed off in recent weeks, and so has Dejon as well, as you've pointed out, Paul. I think Anyang, they've looked really, really solid this season.
Consistent as well.
Consistent, yeah. Yeah, I know. I was just really going to say that. Like the form of the other ones are tailing off, and Anyang have just managed to keep on going.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan, it would be a bit of a collapse now for them to throw this away. Do you see any reason why they could let this slip now? Is it obviously it's theirs to lose, you could say, but
sure.
Is it that simple?
I think this year they're going to hold on to that spot. I mean, again, preseason, I think they were one of the ones that we were talking about as maybe being automatic promotion hopefuls. Gwangju has been a surprise. What's not surprising here is that Jonathan Moya is leading the way for them. And then I think the reason that they won't trail off here is because he does still pair well with Acosti. But Andrigo has been a really good signing for them and has really changed the way things are moving forward for them. Because I think before it was a lot easier for teams to just kind of mark out Moya and then Acosti every now and again. But now you've got the three of them, and Kim Jung, has been doing a bit of a job for them as well. So I think that their attack is in better shape than it has been in recent years, where, Paul, you keep pointing to the consistency. And I think that that's a big reason why it's there, because in the past it was like, well, if Moya's not firing, if Acosti's not firing, then the team isn't firing and they won't be able to get those goals that they need. But this year, I think that's a little bit of a different case. And yeah, I don't really see them falling off like they have in previous years, because I think they'll keep scoring.
I mean, talking about consistency in their form, but consistency in keeping them as well. You look at the teams, when we get to the teams lower down, we're going to see more player turnover. But unsurprisingly, the teams that have managed to keep hold of and build are the ones pushing again for the top. And I think Anyang keeping that strike force from last year that clearly had potential, keeping all those goals that Moya scored, and he's maintained that scoring streak this season as well. This clearly is the real deal. He wasn't just a flash in the pan. Yeah, I think that's been massive that they've been able to just keep that core and build on it.
Yeah, one other thing that I'd like to point out is that their record against the other contenders is better than either Dejon or Buchon. By that, I mean the teams in the top sort of six at the moment, because obviously Asan as well, obviously in there in terms of challenging for the top five. They've got 23 points from a possible 45, lost just 4 against the current top 6. Buchon, they're level with the same points, but they've lost more than Anyang, whereas Dejon have won just 4, lost 7, and have only managed 16 points from 45. So I think they are a team that likes the big game. They're not afraid. Even, like I said earlier on Sunday, they managed to go 2-0 up. They lost that 2-0 lead against Dejon. They didn't think, okay, let's just play for the draw now. They went and got the winner in the 94th minute. So no fear. The atmosphere there seems to be really good as well, because when I spoke to Acosti at the start of the season, he said that it doesn't matter who scores as long as the team wins. And I generally do believe that. Players might say that. Not sure I always believe it. But with Acosti, he's got 10 assists now. He got 3 in that game alone against Dejon. And you can see, when he sets somebody up, he's just as happy as if he would be if he scored. So team spirit is one, and they just like they like those big games, and that's why I think they will seal second place. But we mentioned Jonathan Moya just a minute ago. Well, news, we have a kit giveaway to speak about. We have a kit with his name on the back, a home shirt. We'll be giving that away very soon. More details will be announced on K-League Twitter. That's on the official K-League channel, so do stay tuned for that. Right then, let's move on to the race for third. Now, this is perhaps you could say that the loser of the race for second then kind of gets put into the lead of the race for third. So but it is something worth fighting for, as we've already talked about. This does mean that you would kind of get a bye through to some kind of semi-final and play the winners of fourth versus fifth. At the moment, we have Dejon, who are sat in the driving seat, but only just about. They are level on the same points as Buchon, but have got a better goals scored at 48-38. This is, well, and actually they play each other this weekend. So this race might kind of be determined a bit more so after this weekend's games. But I'll start with you, Matthew. Have you been surprised by Dejon's underperformance, you could say, this season?
Well, yeah, because whenever a club invests that much money, you do expect a return on it. And Dejon have had excuses in previous seasons with the investment because it might not happen the first season because you're going to have some time to build that team chemistry to find that formation. And then last year it probably should have gone up through that. They threw that away in the playoffs. But you think there should be continual improvement, and it seems like it's not continued. Well, it's not continued. To be blunt, they're really, really inconsistent, I find. But I still think that they'll get the job done purely because they can score, purely because they can find goals. Buchan, they've done marvelous to turn around what was last season and to find themselves in fourth, but they haven't won in their last 4 games, and they haven't scored that many goals. For a team pushing for promotion, they've only got 38 goals. So I think as we reach the business end of the season, we're going to see, Dejon have been very inconsistent, but they've still got the talent there to cure those playoff spots where I think Buchan experience is going to expose them, I think, in these final legs, but still a season to be proud of for them.
Yeah, in terms of Dejon, Ryan, there are some sections of the support that are suggesting that maybe the manager should go regardless of whether they win promotion or not this season. He's had 2 years now. They've spent a lot of money. They've managed to sign players like Ju Se-jong, who might even go to the World Cup. They've signed Willian. They met his buyout clause. Would you agree with that? Should he go if they win promotion or not? The manager.
I mean, I think if they win promotion, then no, that's you winning your job, right? I mean, I think that's the goal. That's been the goal for Dejon since Hana Bank came in and took things over and spent all this money that you're saying, and also has to be a big reason of how you guys are able to get all these players. I'm going to keep throwing you under the bus in this one.
Yeah,
I don't think that regardless he should lose his job, but I do think that, I mean, look, this is where Dejon is this year. If you come in and you want to manage this team, or I should say right now, in recent years, if you come in and you want to manage this team and you don't get promotion, then that's it. You're not going to be able to keep your job because that's just the ambition of this club, and that's where things have been for a while. And like you say, you can't get somebody like Ju Se-jong coming back over from Japan, somebody that might go to the World Cup again, somebody that's, I mean, he's one of the best midfielders in the country. You can't get talent like that and then not get promotion. But I do think, again, when you look at the race right now, like Matt was saying, Buchan, I mean, good on him for staying here for this long, because usually it's a beginning of the season kind of thing, and then they tail away. But they are already kind of tailing away. They haven't won in 4, and you look at Gyeongnam coming up behind them, and you start to think, well, is Buchan going to be able to do it? I don't feel those same kind of doubts for Dejon, and this is a weird one where this bizarre, very unique setup that we have this year, where second place is automatically going to be playing a K1 team, and then there are the K2 playoffs for third place. That could kind of work in Dejon's favor this year, because then they know these playoffs. They've been in these playoffs in recent years, and they'll have that benefit of playing at home. So I think all of those things point to the promotion push at least going relatively well. And I think that if the promotion push goes well, then no, I don't think you need to look to change managers. It hasn't been a disaster of a season, in my opinion, but I'm a little further away from it. What would you say on that?
I'm just a little bit tired of seeing strange team selections. He can't find a way to accommodate Massa. He doesn't know what his best position is. In my opinion, he's more of a 10 or someone who could play as a striker. He seems to get put in midfield a lot. And that's probably because they've got Willian, Kaiser, and Leandro who make up the front 3. So trying to squeeze him in, and Ihon Shik, and Ju Se-jong, and some of the other forward players that they've got, Kim Sung-sop, a very quick forward, someone who suits them well in terms of that counter-attacking style. They just can't get him in the team. That's why they let Won Ki-jong go on loan to Gyeongnam. He's got an embarrassment of riches there, and I just think that he hasn't been able to find the right combination. He can't seem to decide on whether a back three or a back four is what's best. They play with wing backs. A back three looks a bit better because the centre backs that they've got, apart from Choi Min, the others who play in that back three have got a mistake in them. So I think you need a three. But the manager, when he first got appointed, I was very unsure about him because it was his first job as a manager in K-League. I wasn't sure whether he'd be the right fit. I wasn't sure whether he had the experience because the club had said they wanted somebody with experience of K-League 2 and winning or getting out of K-League 2. Then when he got appointed, it was a bit of a shock. Then he won me over because I think he the club releases these YouTube videos, I think it's called Off the Pitch, and they give you a glimpse of what he's like behind the scenes because they show some of his team talks and things in the way that he interacts with the players. He does seem very good at tactics, and he will do video analysis at half time. He will turn the lights off in the changing room, show you, you're stood there, but you can't stand there. You need to make sure that you do this and this and that. I think he's very much a modern manager, which you think that's what they need, but they keep making these same mistakes. They can't defend. They can't keep clean sheets, and you just can't expect to win the league or even going up if you can't keep clean sheets. I think Guangzhou's main keeper has kept 15 clean sheets. Dejon's is 5 or 6. I think that tells its own story. But I do go into a lot of this in an article that I wrote recently. It's on KLUunited.com right now. So check out that if you would like to know a bit more. But I think their lack of success against the teams in and around the top 6 might be what lets them down in terms of finishing second. Finishing third, they have to win this weekend against Bucheon. But we'll have a quick break and we'll come back and then we'll look at the race for the final spots in the playoffs.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
All right, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. We've gone through the title race, the races for second and third, and now it's time to look at the race for the final playoff spot. That is 5th this year. Now, Matthew, I would say that any team that finishes 5th probably isn't going to win promotion to the K-League 1, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know, indeed. And it's Gyeongnam and Chungnam Asan that look the most likely to claim this last spot. Both of them they're both very reliant on one player. They kind of got some of the issues we're talking about with maybe Anyang and things from last season. Gyeongnam have been very reliant on Thiago Orobo. He's leading the goal scoring charts at the moment with 17 goals in the K-League 2. And surprisingly, Asan have got the second highest goal scorer in the league, and that's Yu Kang-hyun, who with 15 goals and 2 assists. Yu has also got the highest XG in the division as well. So 2 prominent goal scorers, but both at clubs in the middle of the table. And the reason why is they're not very good. Well, they're not very good defensively. Gyeongnam are quite good at constructing. They've got a very good. They score highly in the passing matrices for things, and they've both got prominent goal scorers. But yeah, they do feature in the middle of the table, and that's because of obviously the goals they concede. Asan are actually pretty good defensively, to be honest. They've conceded the second fewest in the division, where Gyeongnam, on the other hand, have conceded the third highest. But why Gyeongnam have been looking better than Asan is perhaps the way that Gyeongnam create chances. Gyeongnam have far more capable passes of the ball. Kim Kang-sun has made the third most in the division. Lee Kwang-jin is the third highest through balls. Park Kwang-il, most key passes. You go to Asan, on the other hand, they don't have any of these players constructing. They have the second highest. Well, no, they have the highest amount of ball losses. Some of the worst accuracy in the league for passing. And they cede possession an awful lot. They've got one player who has featured highly in the passing matrices, Park Se-jik. He's got the highest for balls into the final third. But when you actually look at that, the accuracy on that, he doesn't even feature in the top 30 now. I know it takes 2 to tango on a passing accuracy, but you look at Asan's stats overall, and yeah, they just can't seem to create, and that's despite having a goal scorer with 15 goals. 15, by the way, is nearly half of the goals scored for Asan this season. So if Yu Kang Hyun goes elsewhere, and I do think he is a player teams should be looking at next season, then Asan are in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. Who do you think will win this race then?
I think it's going to be Gyeongnam, just because Asan's been tanking lately. They've had 4 straight losses, which it's ended recently, ended at the weekend actually with a draw with Gimpo. Where Gyeongnam, they've had 3 wins in their last 5. The question for me is really what happens to these managers after. Now, I've been a big fan of Asan's Park Dang-hyuk for a while. I don't see him going anywhere because I think the amount of work he's done with Asan seems like he's quite happy in that position. And he's done a very good job with Asan as well, given their resources. Gyeongnam, on the other hand, I think Sol Ki-hyun, I still don't know how he is in that position at Gyeongnam. I think he should have gone last season. He's still there, and I don't think he's going to get promotion. He's not going to get promotion this season, but he might be in the playoffs. So, yeah, Gyeongnam for me.
Yeah. Ryan, how do you see it playing out?
I mean, I can't really disagree with anything that Matt said there. I think we kind of touch on this. I kind of touched on this with the Daejeon bit there, that I think when you look at recent form, and also you just, I don't know, I keep bringing up mentality like that. Like that's the only thing at play here. But I think Gyeongnam, they have that playoff mentality already. And like, this is something that we talk about in American sports all the time. But like when you're fighting for that last playoff spot, and we've talked about this in K2 as well, your team is already in playoff mode. And I think that's where Gyeongnam are right now, where they know that they have to win these games, whereas Bucheon has been there for a really long time. And they're kind of coasting a little bit. It feels like maybe that spot is secure because it is a decent points gap. Bucheon is fine, obviously, but Cheongnam and Gyeongnam, I think those are 2 teams that right now are fighting for those playoff spots. And I think Gyeongnam's got more experience in that regard. And they also just, I think it means a little bit more to them. I think Cheongnam Asan, sure, it'd be nice, but like this isn't a team that's been in K1. This isn't a team that, you know, it has a ton of playoff experience, whereas Gyeongnam, unfortunately for you, Paul, you'll know all about their playoff experience in recent years. This is somewhere they've been. They want to get back to K1. And I just think they look a little bit better organized. Sol Ki-hyun, yeah, maybe he's not doing the best of jobs, but I do think that 3 wins in 5 at a time when they really, really need it, sure, I'll agree and say they'll get it done.
Yeah, and also in defense of Sol Ki-hyun, it can't help when his best players get sold mid-season. He's lost Willian and Hernandez.
Yeah.
So, he does have mitigating circumstances to blame for that. Right then, we're going to move down the table right the way to the bottom and look at the teams which are fighting to avoid the wooden spoon, that is to finish bottom of K-League 2. There is obviously no relegation in K-League 2, so it doesn't really matter that much. More about playing for pride. Daejeon have finished bottom of this division in recent seasons, and it's not a great feeling. At the moment, we have Busan I Park who are sitting 11th. They are 4 points behind Jeonnam, who have a game in hand. Then above that, it's Seoul Eland on 29 points, 6 ahead of Busan, but they have 2 games in hand over Busan I Park. So it's very much all to play for. Ansan are above them slightly, only on goals scored because they are on the same points as Eland. So you could say really that the battle, there's 6 points between 4 teams, all looking to avoid the wooden spoon. Matthew, Busan I Park, how are they in this position, do you think?
Yeah, Perez, basically. That's
Perez.
The damage. Perez is just, it's completely...
It's been very difficult for Busan because they've thought, well, we have to give Ricardo Perez time. You know, last season wasn't very convincing. Finished firmly mid-table, really, despite having the MVP in Am Byung-jun, who scored 20 goals. They gave him the benefit of the doubt. It didn't work out, and then they had to sort of make a decision mid-season to find a new manager. I think Park Jin-sop makes perfect sense. He did have a slight new manager bounce. They won their first game under him, I think. But since then, it's been a little bit grim, and I think you have to just look at their goals for tally. It is pretty poor. They've scored 25 goals in the league this season. That is the fewest. The defense isn't that bad though. It's only the 4th worst. But yeah, I think it's their lack of goals. And I think even with John Dragons there in 11th on a bit of a slide, not winning, I think, 17 games. Yeah, Ryan's not happy. Ryan, let's just ask you.
A bit of a slide.
Bit of a slide. No winning 17 games is putting it a bit loosely there, a bit of a slide. Do you see the Dragons dropping through to 11th?
I thought you were going to say K3, and I was going to say we deserve it. Like, I mean, maybe 4 points isn't a ton, but we're picking up points one at a time. John, I mean, again, we talk about this all the time. This is why we need relegation from this division, because the Dragons right now, what's the point? Busan and Jeonnam right now, why are they even playing these games? And I think, can they hold off and can they stay away from the very bottom spot? Probably, because they'll just keep drawing their way there. And I don't think Busan is going to make up that difference. But for Jeonnam, it just stop conceding when you have the lead. Just stop it. I mean, they look rudderless. They just don't. There's no identity for this team right now. Under Jung Kyung-jun, I think obviously way too defensive, and that, but that can win you some games, because if you win 1-0, you're winning 1-0. You're not drawing 1-1 or 2-2 or whatever the case may be. But I don't think they'll fall off enough to finish absolute bottom. But then again, maybe that's what the team needs. There isn't relegation, but maybe a last place finish in K2 the year after you won the FA Cup and played in Champions League and were one of the favorites to be promoted. Maybe that'll be a wake-up call that the folks at Posco need to hear. I don't know. I don't think they will finish bottom, though.
Fair enough. Well, then we've got Ansan Greeners and Seoul Eland that are in there as well. They've got that 6-point cushion. Eland have those 2 games in hand as well. So you wouldn't think that those two would be really in much danger of finishing bottom. And you might have noticed that we haven't talked about one team in particular, because Gimpo aren't in any race. They just sat there on their own in 7th because they're not in the playoff push. They're not in the wooden spoon battle. And that's great. First season in K-League, and they are safe from the wooden spoon. They've done all right, haven't they, really, for a first season at this level?
Personally, I think this is a great finish. I mean, I know at the beginning of the season, there were all the questions of, oh God, are they going to push for the title, this and that and the other? And I think that was really just the case, teams needing more video on them and knowing how to study this team. But when you're looking at a team, and again, we don't have movement between K2 and K3 yet, but Gimpo did win K3, so we're going to pretend that they're here on merit. And if you're in a new division on merit and you finish mid-table, yeah, job done. Well done. I mean, I think that this is a great season for Gimpo to build on, and is something that I think this could help with player recruitment in the offseason as well. As like, look, we came up out of nowhere and we finished above these teams you may have heard of: Busan Park, Jeonnam Dragons, teams that used to be in K1. And yeah, I mean, I think that's job done for Gimpo. They could finish the season today and it'll be a success story, in my opinion.
Indeed. Right. We'll have one more quick break, and then afterwards, Matthew will speak to our very own Michael Redmond about what on earth is going on at Seoul Eland.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeague United with any questions, comments or reactions. Or ask directly during one of our live shows.
Hello, annyeonghaseyo. Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm Matthew Binns, and joining me for the first time in a while, it's Michael Redmond. Hello, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's nice to be back.
It is. Well, yeah, it's been quite a while, and when you're on, it does usually mean we are talking about one thing, and hence your perhaps hesitation in your answer there. But yeah, we are talking about Seoul Eland. It's been a while since we've checked in at the Leopard's Den, as you lovingly call it, and well, it's also been a while since we've checked in on the K2. So we thought we'd just quickly pick your thoughts on what is going on at Seoul Eland this season, try and get an idea of the state of things, and is there anything that can be done this season, or what needs to be done next season to try and salvage the situation they're in. But for the listeners who might not be aware of the situation Seoul Eland are in, Michael, give us a quick rundown of where they are right now and how the season has gone.
So, ready for the monologue. It has been one of the worst seasons I've ever seen Seoul Eland play. I've watched Seoul Eland since 2017. I've seen them finish twice last, okay? The football is terrible. The management is terrible. The only reason that we're in, we're 8th place now at the moment. The only reason we're not 11th is because John and Busan are also having a terrible season too. Not disrespecting them, just saying they're not having a good season as well. The way that we play football is boring. It's dull. It's dire. It's long ball and hope to pass it to Cadenazzi up front, who's the tallest player on the pitch. We have a saviour in Sabusa and Kim Sung-min in the middle. They're both looking at each other like, why are we in this team? It is a failure. It's a failed market. It's a failed product. The fans are not fans. They're customers. And it is a complete shambles, okay? It's a complete shambles of a football team. I have seen this happen since we lost it turned the moment we lost 1-0 against Aston Magungwa, or Cheongnam, sorry, now, back in 2021, April 2021 or March 2021. I'm not sure the date is sure. Last year, so 18 months ago, this problem came in where we were shell-shocked that we lost so late in the game, and it's happened 8 times now this season where we have lost last-minute goals, where we've been winning the game to draw or drawing a game to loss. We cannot keep our heads in the game. The mentality's gone, the spirit's down, the passion's gone. There's nothing in the team anymore. It is literally a shell of what I watched when we were finishing last. When we were winning 5 games a season, it's the shell of that team, and that says a lot. Because in 2018, we had Coutinho. Oh, no, that's 2019. In 2019, we had Coutinho and we had Girardi, who now plays for San Greeners. But they kept scoring goals for Eland. They kept making the team. 2020, we had Leandro, who was on absolute fire. Who do we have in this team that we could say, oh, so Eland has smashed it? We have a player that we can trust in. No. People say Kim In-sung. I don't rate Kim In-sung at Seoul Eland. He's way above Seoul Eland's level, but the team itself is just an absolute joke, to be honest. I'm sorry to be ranting and raving. This is probably not what you expected from me, but it's been 5 years of misery, and boiling point now has happened. So,
well, I mean, yeah, it's fully understandable, and there's a lot to unpack there from your opening remarks. But I mean, where to start there? It's just interesting that you mentioned Kim In-sung. You mentioned all the other high-profile names like Tsubasa that have all come in. These are all high-profile names. Why then, when they come into Seoul, why are they not producing on the pitch? Because these are players with good reputations in K League One. They're not players who've been picked, who've been reserves of their squads. they're all established names. Why is it then when they come in through the door at Seoul, they're no longer able to produce what they're capable of?
Chun Jun-young.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. He's changed everything. He's tried changing tactics. He's tried changing teams. He's tried changing management, backing staff. Sorry, he just can't do it, and he won't walk. If you go on the Seoul Eland Instagram, you go on the Seoul Eland Facebook. Now, my Korean's not fantastic, but I understand Korean very well these days. You should see some of the comments that are on the Seoul Eland social media post every time we lose a game. I'm not alone in this. Everyone thinks the same thing. It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he's been in charge since 2020. Now, he had a fantastic 2020 season. So they were on the cusp. They were a goal away from being in the playoffs in 2020. Obviously, right to stick with him and build on on the legacy he was laying the foundations for there. But last season wasn't a good season for Seoul Eland. As you mentioned, there was that chopping and changing with the players, that chopping and changing with the backroom staff. I guess it's why haven't these fixes in particular, they've not worked out, have they really?
It was a case of last year we started so well. We were top of the league. We were undefeated in the first 5.
Thrashed Kim Chon-sangmu 4-0 in the second game.
We beat the Army 4-0. First game of the season, we beat Busan Ipar 3-0. Then we beat the Army Kim Chon-sangmu 4-0. And then we went to Yongnan, went to Changwon, and went a 0-0 draw. And for us, I think it was 0-0 draw. we're standing up against the big teams there, and we're thinking, this is our year. We're going to go and do it. We're going to do it. And by the end of the season, we were fighting with Buchon for the wooden spoon. So we went from first down to ninth because there was only 10 teams last year. We lost 2-1 last game of the season against Chungnamat. I keep saying Asmagungwa because that's their own Chungnamat. And we were like, what is happening here? Now, unfortunately, a lot of bad things happened last year. There was a death in the backing staff. There was a lot of problems with Solion, which it was a bit of a somber mood in 2021. We thought we'd give him one more go. We'll give him one more try. We'll let him have another go. And in the winter, we had a massive clear out. We got rid of everyone, and we brought in a new set of players. And we're in the same situation now as we were last year. We're probably doing slightly better. But I mean slightly better. I think we've probably won maybe one game more than last year. And I don't even think that's true, to be honest. But we're doing a little bit better just mentally thinking about it. We're dead in the water, unfortunately. And we'll always be dead in the water. And if you want to talk about next year, maybe that's the next question you have. But I'll leave that for the next question. But at the moment, I could see John overtaking us. I could see Anton overtaking us. I could see Busan overtaking us. I think we are going to finish the season 10th or 11th.
Yeah. I mean, a topic you've drawn on there and something you've drawn on at the beginning of this chat, you mentioned about doing a do-over, getting rid of the staff, bringing in new staff. Now, this is not new at K-League 2 clubs. We know that teams are in K-League 2, teams that don't get promoted, they're susceptible to this. Some team players don't want to stay, they clear out, and you get this this constant cycle. But Soliland, they are a club with money. They know they're John Hannah Citizen. They know, they know John Buck. They know Ulsan. But they are a team with a bit of finance as well. So they are capable of attracting reasonable talent. They are a team capable of keeping players. I guess my question is, do you worry that Soliland is in a cycle of constant do-overs, and would another do-over be what they need to turn things around?
I think you're 100% right. It's just cycle after cycle after cycle, but I worry about the next cycle. Because the next cycle, Chun Young's out of his contract at the end of the year. He's only got a 3-year contract and it's gone. Now, stranger things have happened, but I'd be very, very surprised if they kept him on as manager next year. I'd be very, very surprised, but knowing Gieland, they'd probably give him a 5-year contract. However, next season, let's think about the players who potentially will not be here next year. Yoon Bong-san, Kim Sung-min, Sabusa, Kim In-sung, Kadenati. Asenho, apparently, his season might be already done, to be honest. I mean, him for the grapevine. Hwang Tae-han, sorry, I do apologize.
There's a lot of names to rattle off, in all fairness.
Basically, what I'm trying to get at is we're not going to have a team next year.
Yeah.
And how long can Eland, as a company, be interested in keep funding this project that is just not doing well? Do you know what I mean? Like we've got Lowell Park, we've got Mokdong now, and it looks beautiful. They've done really, really well.
But they really have. I thought Mokdong was actually quite a smart move by them when they had to move out the forced out of Jamshil.
It's very nice, and they've done really, really well with it. But attendances are down. I mean, they were selling products at discounted prices yesterday because they can't sell the gear, they can't sell the products. I mean, we see it. Everyone sees it. I'm just speaking the truth right now. Next season is the 12 or 13 teams in the K-League 2. I think it's 13 teams. I think Cheonan and Cheongju have also put their head in.
There's a couple more teams definitely have applied, and I think one more as well.
Right.
But yeah,
where does that leave Eland? Because Cheonan now, I've not been following the K3 or K4 so much, but I know they could probably beat Eland right now. Cheongju's probably the same. Where does that leave Seoul Eland? You've seen it with Gimpo this season, a team that don't have a lot of money, but a team that has just come there to fight and win. A team that's just come there just with a passion, just played football. We've seen it. Okay, Eland have beaten them 3-0 twice, or 3-1, 3-0. I mean, thank you, Gimpo, for 6 months. However, they play football like they want to play football. They're not overpaid. They're not overthinking about it. They're gone there to play. They've gone there to win every single game they go into. Every single game's a battle. I love watching Gimpo play football because you could tell they're there. They love the fact in the K-League too. And I tell you what, right, personally, not talking about Solian for a moment, their fans are the loveliest fans in the K-League. Honestly, they're lovely fans. They're just happy to be here. When I was in the commercial, I got speaking to fans. I made friends with them. And every time Milan played Gimpo, I meet up with fans, and they're lovely, lovely people. But they're just happy to be here. Where I think Elan, I don't even know what they want. I don't even know what Elan want themselves as a company and as a football team.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, as a fan, if you're watching a team which promises so much, delivers so little, then promises it'll do it again, and then fails to deliver again, how much faith would supporters have in the next cycle, and how much faith would they have that the board could carry it out successfully, given how many times they've tripped over before in doing so? We'll try and end this somewhat. I mean, we're going to be scraping the barrel. We're going to be scraping the barrel, but we try to find a bit of light. Is there anything if Seoul Elan could salvage? I'm trying to think of the best way because of saying this, but from the fans' perspective, what would from this position you find yourselves in now until the end of the season, what would be considered an improvement? And trying to, could there be anything Seoul Elan could do to change your mind at this point this season?
Play to win.
Yeah,
just have a bit of passion, because you watch the games, and it's not good enough, and it's one of them. It's like you can have a bad game, but they've had 29 bad games. As a fan perspective, if there's anything that's been good this season, nothing, absolutely nothing on the pitch, off the pitch, around the team. And it hurts me, and I sound more like a monologue here now than a podcast. And I apologise, I've taken such a somber route, but from the past, what I've experienced with Seoul Elan, and I've never done nothing but sing the team's praises. I think I'm done, to be honest. I think I'm done. I can't continue to let myself go through what Seoul Elan do to fans and do to myself. So very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Well, on that somber bombshell, I hope it doesn't come to that in the end, Michael. But certainly a somber note to end on. Certainly food for thought for Seoul Elan, for their fans as well. And hopefully we can get you back on in the near future to under happier circumstances. Maybe we'll be talking about a different team or something, but perhaps
probably on Blue Wings fan next time you meet me.
Oh no, let's never go down that route. But Michael, great to have you on as always, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon. Cheers, Michael.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Michael Redmond, not a happy man about what's happening at Seoul Elan again this season. But before we go, let's have a quick dip into the mailbag. Borhat from Twitter, Suwon FC fan on Twitter, he says, "Hi, the league is not over yet, but who is the K-League 2 player you have liked the most so far? Doesn't need to be the best, but it's one that you've liked the most." Matthew mentioned him earlier. For Asan, Yu Kang-hyun is probably a contender.
Yeah,
he's not really someone who's been on my radar until this season. He's kind of, I think, someone who plays for a team like Asan. Talking about Asan, he kind of can do that under the radar. But it's his first really full season at K-League. He was been playing abroad in the Czech Republic before that, and I think in other leagues around Europe. So he's had a bit of an interesting career. 26 with 15 goals. I think teams might be looking at him and thinking, well, he's worth keeping tabs on, but can he do it again next year? Might be the sort of big one for him.
Yeah, and at 26, he's getting into the age range. Obviously, they're recruiting a fair amount. There's a bit of a backlog of players to squeeze in at Gimcheon, so the worry would be whether he's doing enough to get on Gimcheon's radar. But yeah, you think that we may see him in the K-League 1 very soon, possibly through the military, if Gimcheon don't go down, that is. I've been impressed by him, and I was also going to say, he has played in K-League 1, but Omji-sung for Gwangju, I wanted John Book to go for him, even though it was only based on one season. At 20 years old, he's not just an asset in terms of his talent, but in terms of being an under-22 player. as well. So I really thought a big club was going to go for him. I'm very surprised that Guangzhou managed to hold on to him. I think it's been good for his development, though. I think having him this season, he was clearly good enough at K-League 1, but going down to K-League 2, getting that regular football, reproving yourself, showing that it's not just a fluke. It's going to set him up well for when he gets promoted next year with them.
Yeah. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, Matt just took my answer. I was going to say Ji-sung just because, like we were talking about when we were talking about Guangzhou, I think Sung, it's clear the talent that was there. Now that he's with Ulsan, now that he's shining on a bigger stage, might even win K1 this year. Good for him. That was a big gap. And I think that, Pete Hampshire last year was talking about Ji-sung as well. And
He's
this
still talking about him.
He's still talking about him.
So I saw him the other week and still going on about him.
I'm sure that he wishes he was at Barnsley after how things went in the most recent game for him there. But yeah, he is one of the next very talented young Korean players that I don't even know if he's going to be in Korea for that long. And I think to have that much weight on your shoulders, and again, this is where I think Guangzhou has done a really good job of balancing that and bringing in players that it's not just him. But there are obviously some big shoes to fill, and he did that this year, has done that this year. And as Matthew just pointed out as well, we'll most likely be playing K1 football again next year. So an impressive season for him and one to build on for a 20-year-old.
Yeah, great season for him. One person I want to just add quickly, Son Suk-young from Gimpo. He's only got 7 goals, but he scored some important goals for Gimpo, and I think he scored in their first ever win at K-League level at the start of the season. He's someone that might be worth looking at for other teams. But that's it from us for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Join us next week when we'll hear from Lee Sung-woo and Choi Yu-min, if things all line up and everything is
don't know
as we have been promised.
Look at you, we might get Lee Sung-woo next week. No big deal.
Maybe.
Just
burying
the lead on that one. Burying the lead on that one.
Who's being dropped? Who's sitting on the bench? Have us 3? They will,
I've dance lessons that day. I'm learning some samba, unrelated to Lee Sung-woo.
Are you sure? You're not inspired by his dancing skills? Because
actually, I can't do the interview because he's leading the dancing lesson beforehand.
There you go. All right then. Well, that's it from us. We'll see you next week.
본격기 김신